Okay, hi everybody. We're going to talk about helping clients today with their nutrition to get the best results while they're doing their training, whether that be doing a training program for 10 weeks or for just improving with their training and when they start personal training, how you can help them and help them make those changes that they need to make, that they battle with, okay? So first, how do you teach them? It's important about enjoying, and you want to help them enjoy and reach their best now and later. The goal needs to be optimal, healthy lifestyle, right? Not a punishment scheme. Try and avoid getting people, they already think like that a lot of the time. They're already in a hurry and they want to change everything overnight. That's not the best way to go. Majority of people don't do that well when they start off that way, especially when they've got a lot of changes to make. So focus on the positive things and minimize the negative things, okay? It's not about willpower, it's about putting things in place, so helping them to live their best life like we want to do. Make time, enjoy the journey, and do what works, or pay later. It's a simple choice, okay? If people don't make a change, they're going to pay for that later. Thinking about their nutritional choices as an investment into their health and their wellness, okay? How often do you hear people say, you know, I want to do everything now this week. I want to, cut this out, do this, blah, blah, blah. And then the following week, oh no, off track. Have you full in your food right? No. You've been too busy, had lots going on. No, you don't want that. You want them to incorporate a few solid things as they go, so that they get the best benefits from that. Simplify the basics. Whole foods, number one. If they only do that, focus on whole foods. Like before, the question was, how much sugar can I have in my daily intake? Well, the idea is to not think about sugar content. Focus on whole foods. You're going to get some sugar intake from fruits and natural fruits and vegetables. You're not worried about the quantity so much, how many grams of sugar. That's not processed sugar, it's in your food. So yes, focusing a large percentage on your vegetables, but some fruits, two or three pieces of fruit a day, or a cup of strawberries or berries a few times a day, that's going to be fine, an appropriate amount of sugar. But thinking about your whole grains rather than sugar itself. So if you're simplifying the basics and increasing the whole foods in your diet and reducing your processed foods as much as you can, but not all or nothing, okay? If somebody's been eating a very processed diet, start them with little changes. Start incorporating things which for them might be a huge suggestion. They might think, I just don't eat vegetables, and they don't see themselves as changing that. If you're going to suggest they suddenly eat copious amounts of salad, they're not going to change. They're not ready to. So you've got to do whatever is appropriate for them at that point in time to get them to make changes that they're not going to be disappointed by because they're going to let themselves down. Okay, daily quality protein with vegetables, fruits, then whole grains and some essential fats. So that's simplifying the whole picture. If you just focus on that and keep on going back to that over there, what is quality protein? Focus on fruit and vegetables. You know, what are essential fats? If you keep on reinforcing those things, people don't take in what you tell them in the first few sessions. They don't take in everything. They'll notice what is relevant to their perspective, whatever that might be. So they'll notice a few things. If you keep on telling the information back to them, they will start to take different information in as they are ready and apply it. And they'll think, oh, I didn't realize that before. You might have told them them 5 times, but they've only just started to understand what that means. So keep on drawing the things to their attention that they need to do. Explain things in a different way. If one way is not working, explain it in a different way. Everybody thinks slightly differently in how they are motivated and how they want to change things and what's encouraging them to do those things. So push the right button. Find what that is for each person that you're training. People and change. People find change challenging. Food is connected to so many habits and associations. From the time you are born, your food is associated with comfort It's associated with something being wrong. People give you, maybe your auntie or your granny might have given you a lolly or an ice cream. Oh, there you go, you know, they're there. So it depends. People have different associations with food, and depending on what they've grown up with, that's their perspective. Okay, they think that's normal. So that's their point of reference. So you have to take that into consideration. Also, everything that's happened between now and then, often when you get to train somebody, they're way past all those habits, and they've also got to the point of being guilty and making themselves feel bad. They don't need to. They create the situation, or things have happened where others have created that situation and they've taken that on. So it's important to draw to their attention the things that are stopping them and what's motivating them. And often if they feel that they are not doing well or they feel guilty, that will stop them from progressing. So it's really important to break that cycle and get them to notice the good things and start implementing good things and crowd out the things that are impacting them negatively, until they one day go, oh, I didn't even think about that. That's not bothering me anymore. So then they'll start to see they can do it, and once they do that a few times, they start to think they can do anything. Exactly the same as with when you're training them. Little achievements make them feel, wow, okay, I've done well at that, I can do well at the next thing. Nutrition is exactly the same. Okay? Teach people to be patient, even with themselves. Impatience is important, is more often the very reason for giving up or going off track. We want all or nothing attitude, so they're either 100% applied or giving up. That's not what's going to get them, that's often what gets them into the position they're in the first place, because they avoid and do all the wrong things until they get to the point where they decide to make a change. It's much better to make small changes. Seek to understand and ask questions about how they feel. Be interested in the people you are talking to, the people you train. Be interested in understanding why they think the way they do. You'll be able to help them a lot more if you do, okay? Don't just talk at them and tell them what you think, okay? You really have to understand that person, what's going on, how do they think, how do they associate their things, in order for them to get the help that they need. That's what you're there for. You're there to answer the questions and help them in what they need help with. One successful change a month, which a client is happy with, is better. Feelings of having failed yet again can be extremely damaging to further attempts to change, especially for people who have been on the process many, many times. They start to lose faith in gyms and our environment that we are trying to create, which is supposed to be a positive environment where we want people to be comfortable to be a part of. Okay, so we do not want to do anything that's going to give people a bad experience. We want to make them always feel that they can always start and progress further, and nothing is lost out of the process that they might have done so far.
I think what we were talking about before with educating our clients on, for example, sugar, and getting on a meal plan or getting onto a normal diet. They seem to see it's either all or none.
Yep.
That's a good point there on that, which is diet and nutrition for our clients. It's supposed to be just a way of living. Most of you guys have that. So if we can get that with our clients, with the majority of our clients, then we're going to achieve some really long-term results. People need to understand if they have a bad moment, it's okay, it can be made up.
That's exactly right.
And that's life.
So it's not about saying, oh, I don't have to change very much at all. It's about saying, those are the things we're aiming for. There's a gap in between, and it depends on the individual person. Some people will slot into that fine, but a big majority of people, they will find that difficult. And it's important to take those things into consideration, especially where there's a history associated with food and not feeling that they are in control of being able to restrict and do what they want to do to achieve the results they want. And they don't understand the connection between the two. Sometimes, you know, like calorie amnesia, people don't think, they'll say their diet is good, and then they'll write a food diary and they'll say, that's not what I normally eat. You hear that a hang of a lot, a huge amount of times, or that's not a normal week. Well, that's life, so you have to be able to adjust those things and make them fit and work for that person, because they're not going to stop living. They're not going to stop doing the things they normally do. So they've really got to consider some of those things to make that work.
Yes. what you just said there as well about people's different cultural aspects affecting food, that's a really important point. A lot of trainers will look at someone's diet and say, okay, you've eaten bread and meat here, bread and meat here, bread and meat here. They might be Egyptian or Indian, and that's just their culture. That's what they eat. So if you don't find foods that are going to be within what they eat within their family, then they've got a lot of pressure from home within their family that you're probably unaccustomed to, or you may be unaccustomed to.
That's right.
And that can be not understanding where they're coming from. You're not going to succeed unless you understand what their obstacles are and how it might actually affect them, because they're not going to come along and do what you're telling them to do, given they've lived like that for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. So that's really, really important. That's just the way their life is. Every day we do it this way. And that's a real massive behavioural change, and certainly could be without go outside of your scope for nutrition. But it is a coaching and consulting process that you're actually going through with people there to make small changes.
So you can say to the person that these things, you can incorporate still, but these are the things that are going to help. But you can also look into it a little bit and try and understand a little bit more about that. So then you can say, oh, well, you have these things. Those things are good about whatever it might be that you traditionally have. So try and move towards those things. So don't dismiss what somebody does, because that's a really strong pull. Culture and societies are extremely, they have a big influence over individual people, especially in families that are extended, and it's sort of an old routine that people stick to and adhere to over time.
Who's told people not to eat stuff before? What happens if you tell someone not to eat something?
If you say you're not allowed to eat chocolate,
it's just going to be met with loggerheads. You're fighting fire there. To have that opinion on food that you can't eat anything is a really bad attitude. You can eat anything that you want. That's completely up to you, and why you want it is the question you have to ask yourself.
And if you get people to think that way, they're not going to think in 6-week blocks or 10-week blocks. They're going to think in the long run. Right. This is a new way of living.
Why am I eating this food? What will it do for me? That's what our job is to help encourage people to make those healthier decisions and look at food as fuel rather than food as good or bad. There is no good, bad foods in what we're teaching our clients. They can choose to eat anything they want, but it's going to have a consequence. Whether it's positive or negative is completely up to you and how you view that food.
Yes, that's right. You want to start getting them to attach the rewards of eating well to a positive reinforced brain chemical cycle. So they start to feel good. Notice, when do you feel good when you're eating well? Notice during the week when you felt better, when you felt worse, when you're eating certain things. Notice that you don't feel that great after you've been eating well for a while. Notice that if you eat badly, that you don't feel so good anymore. People start to associate that pattern in exactly the reverse to what they were doing before. I like the taste of that food, blah, blah, blah. They start to, once they feel healthier, they wouldn't realize that they didn't feel well before. They'll start to realize how much better they feel, and then they will feel less healthy, and their blood sugar won't be really good, their energy levels won't be good. They'll start to notice those things when they eat badly. So you want to reinforce that cycle rather than thinking this is bad, start thinking this is what's good. So put those things in place. Okay? If a client does not apply change repeatedly, help them consider their obstacles without blame. Help them reflect. So don't say, why are you not doing as you've been asked, and that's bad, and I'm going to make you do this and this. Rather ask them, so we've spoken about these things a few times, and are you still doing some of these things? Or even, don't even say still. You say, these things are still something, or something that's incorporated that you are you finding that challenging? Why do you think that might be? What do you think is stopping you? What things are getting in the way? Because if you help them consider those things, often it's something simple, and they realize, oh, I don't actually need to do that. I can avoid the associated. It could be a pattern. It could be associated with being with certain friends. It could be associated, it's often like smoking is associated with drinking alcohol. So when people are trying to stop smoking, they avoid alcohol for a while in certain places where they would associate that behaviour. It's much easier to break a habit if you are changing the environment. So encourage them to change their environment and their normal routines if they're still finding it difficult to make those changes. Yeah, because food is, you know, if somebody's taking a medication or they're taking drugs or they're smoking or even with alcohol, they can, if they have an addiction to those things, they can actually cut them out and avoid them altogether, and it's not going to do them any harm. Food is different. You have to eat. So for people who do have, they find it difficult to regulate that, they find it very difficult to have a happy medium. So you need to introduce the idea that balance is better, and it's not about cutting anything out, but it's about regulating what they do and how they do it, so that they can really start to break that habit that they've developed over the long term, which has become dysfunctional and not helpful for them. And a huge amount of people do have that to a larger or lesser extent. So on the extreme level, you would get eating disorders. On the not so, you know, the minimal, average, everyday thing, it's what the majority of people do. They associate with their habits. Why do you not eat well? Everybody should be eating well. I don't know, I just eat food. I don't think about what I eat. You know, I just get busy and go and, you know, buy whatever tastes good. Have you ever thought about why you're eating the foods you're eating? No, not really. So, yeah, it depends. A lot of people will have, and especially people we're exposed to, but you will get people who come into the gym who say, I've never thought about what I eat. I've never had to worry about it. So yes, it depends on, and other people will be the opposite. They'll know every single little thing. They'll know how much fat is per gram, but none of that has helped them because it's all facts. It's the behavior side of it that they're battling with. And so you really need to consider where the person that you're talking to is on those things without being extreme either. So, yeah. People will change if they can see the value long term. A lower number on the scale does not magically fix your life, but feeling great and alive certainly helps and empowers more change. Helping people to truly live their best life is making them feel better, okay? That will help them change. So even if it's small changes, they're going to do better in a year's time than they would otherwise have. Okay, now talking a little bit about nutrition for specific needs, okay? An example would be clients can improve their bone density and prevent osteoporosis with good nutrition. Now, a lot of the time you might have a client say they went for a bone density test, or they come in and they tell you they've got osteopenia or low bone density, okay, osteoporosis, arthritis. A lot of those things are associated with bad bone density, and the problem, arthritis is often associated with preconditions for bone density. Because you're eating an over acid producing diet, you're actually deleting calcium from your body, which your bones are your calcium bank account, okay? So if you're eating a diet that deletes calcium from your body, you're generating a massive need for calcium. That's why there's a lot of advertising for calcium supplementation. But throwing buckets and buckets of calcium supplements that you don't absorb into an already complex problem may actually cause more trouble. You're much better off to encourage people to eat a whole food diet and a more alkaline producing diet, okay, which we'll talk a little bit more about. It's not that complicated to understand if you give people a few pointers. We all imagine living a full and active life, being able to do the things that we enjoy the most. Unless you keep your bones strong, you may not be able to do this. People don't consider this. They live until they find they have problems, okay?
And we're talking about exercise and good nutrition.
Yes, that's right. So incorporating exercise. Why do I need to exercise? I'm feeling fine. I don't have any problems. Well, because you want to avoid having problems later. People don't think they might have, or they'd only start to change when they feel they do.
And for females, osteoporosis is a real concern for certainly first-time mothers who are stressed, and for females over the age of 25 and 30, they actually decrease by 2 to 5% per year their bone density. So the job is for women to maintain their bone density by performing continual stimulus being weight training on a weekly basis. It is absolutely essential to maintain and certainly even developing some. And certainly when ladies and women get older, it's all about maintaining, because they will be fighting that 5% annually.
Yes, men can get osteoporosis as well, especially if they're slighter in bone and muscle mass. But generally, males tend to have more muscle per kilogram of body weight, and so they tend to move heavier weights around and do more physical work, and there's more testosterone as well, so they're less likely to have those problems. But a lot of people these days do not ever reach their full bone density. So if you've not reached your full bone density, then you're already minusing from something that's not been topped up to an optimal amount. And that really does have an impact on your lifestyle and your long-term health. Unless you keep your bones strong, you may not be able to do the things you want to do. Take care of your bones early in life. Okay, that's going to be ideal. If you have neglected your bone density due to lifestyle or lack of knowledge, it's never too late, so don't tell people it's too late, but tell them they need to do something about it to make some changes. Here are a few tips to help you get started. Even if bone density is already showing signs of having diminished, these changes will help. It's a lot better to try these points rather than change nothing and just add a calcium tablet, which will probably cause other problems. Peak bone density is ideally reached by the age of 35 years. Many people never reach their peak bone density due to excess dietary restriction, so dieting, especially people like ballerinas, athletes that are restricted and really weight controlled. They tend to definitely have low bone density and other associated problems with hormonal balance. Okay, so dietary intake is worsened and magnified by inactivity on top of that. So that's not athletes so much, that becomes more your young teenagers, high school student. They might be not eating at all. Okay, so consider what somebody has been doing when they first come to you. Ask them what their history is. Unless you maintain an active lifestyle and do weight-bearing exercise, you will start to lose bone density. The result is porous and weak bones as time goes on. Eventually, this might cause real mobility trouble and discomfort. This is mostly preventable and can be reversed slowly when certain dietary factors and weight training are included into a healthy lifestyle and program. Lifestyle factors to change. Be more active every day in everything you do. Use the stairs instead of the elevator. The things that we do suggest people to burn more calories. The same things are relevant. Okay, carrying your own weight around upstairs is a really good way to do some weight training. Things in the garden, moving things around, as long as that's safely done, your movement. Okay, take up weight training 2 times a week will help challenge your bones. Your body only does what it's challenged to do. The same as with your training principles, the same thing applies. Eating a more alkaline producing diet will reduce how much calcium is leached from your system. So when you eat any food, okay, any food item will have an alkaline producing residue or an acid producing residue. So, for example, a burger, which is white flour processed meat with no vegetables in it, has an acid-producing residue in your body. It's not the acidity of the actual item, okay? It's what is produced when your body digests and breaks down that food into individual components. That produces acidity or alkalinity. So raw fruit and vegetables, a really easy way to work it out is just thinking about raw fruit and vegetables. If 50 to 80% of your diet is based on more whole foods, raw foods, you're going to have a good alkaline balance. Nuts and seeds, you're going to have a good alkaline balance. If you're eating meat and carbohydrates and very few vegetables, and eating coffee or drinking coffee, having cola, soda drinks, extremely acidic, you're going to be deleting calcium from your body at an alarming rate. So always asking people about that. Avoid excess acid-producing foods and drinks, carbonated, sugary drinks. They especially leach calcium from your system. Hence, they are so bad for your health, which are made... Okay, your bones are made from calcium and that deletes it. It's not only about getting enough calcium, it's also about reducing things that cancel out the available calcium, like a bone calcium bank account, both deposits and withdrawals. So this brings us to the subject of milk and having to drink enough milk to get enough calcium in your diet. A lot of people do not tolerate cow's protein all that well, and they are better off not having huge amounts of it, probably low-fat yogurt being the best source of calcium. Okay, dairy industry is part of our economy. Okay, it is promoted that you should have as much cow's milk and dairy as you can, or include it in your diet a lot. This is not 100% correct. Okay, Some dairy in your diet is appropriate for those people who tolerate it well. If you don't, then goat's milk and soy milk are alternatives, as well as almond milk, as long as it's real almond milk, not the sugary water that's in the shops at the moment. That's sold as 3% almonds.
Where will we purchase good almond milk from?
You can get that from the health shops. You can make your own if you're really motivated, but you need a lot of almonds to do that and know how. But yes, any health shop will have it. The supermarkets are starting to get some in that have agave syrup, and it really is almonds. So
agave
syrup, and
Write
yeah,
that down, guys. Agave syrup.
agave is a really good sweetener for people to use in small quantities if they are used to having sugar in their diet. They can add a little bit of agave to things. You buy it in the health shop as well in a bottle. It's very much like maple syrup. So trying to get people who use any sugar at all to try and think about having maple syrup, stevia and agave as alternatives.
Cinnamon, honey.
Cinnamon and honey. Cinnamon's a really good way to add flavour. It stabilises your blood sugar as well instead of increasing it, which sweeteners and other things that have calories in them do.
It's
okay.
packed full of antioxidants like
it is.
oregano and clove. So very, very, very good.
Yes, so all your herbs, definitely, and turmeric. Turmeric is it detoxifies your liver, the second phase of your liver. So that is a really good way to get rid of toxins, which people, if they've been eating badly for years, they are extremely acidic. Turmeric is going to help neutralise.
Turmeric colours your food, so you add that to your roast veggies, makes it very easy, and also add it to all your curries. It also gives good flavour in the curry.
Yep, anything that's a casserole. You can even throw it on chicken when you're cooking it in a pan. Throw always turmeric on there.
So you can add that to what Sherry was talking about before, stuffed chicken, and adding a little bit of turmeric with a bit of oil, salt, pepper.
Yep. So that's just purely like food medicine.
Back to what you were saying there, let's talk more about dairy.
Yes.
So are you saying that it's quite clear there's a lot of people out there now that don't eat dairy, they choose to not eat dairy because you don't see other animals drinking milk from other animals, and we're the only race that drinks milk from an animal. You won't see a dog drinking from a cat. It doesn't work that way. And that's basically the whole idea of it's just not right for our body. And secondly, we don't need it. It's full of sugar and full of fat that's unnecessary, and you can get it from better sources. So the question is, if you drop dairy, would you get enough dairy, and how would you have to make that a focus?
Okay, yes, well, you think about a toddler and a child. What is milk is made for a small animal or a human, whatever it might be. We're meant to grow out of having milk, and we normally lose the lactase, which helps us digest milk. Our stomach is also not made to digest cow's milk. Cows' stomachs have a extremely good way of digesting the really tough protein that is in cow's milk. So yeah, that's not something we are meant to have a lot of ongoing. So that considered, how do you adjust your diet to make up for that? You want to make sure you have raw nuts and seeds. You want to make sure you have lots of leafy green vegetables, dried figs, even oranges, fruit. They all have some calcium in them. But you're also not creating the deficit by deleting calcium, because you're not drinking carbonated drinks by the litre a day. You're not drinking loads of coffee. You're not eating loads of processed meat, pies, pastries, biscuits. All of those things are acid, okay? They are going to delete calcium from your body. It doesn't matter how many calcium tablets you swallow, your kidneys are going to have to excrete that. So you really do want to add your calcium from proper food sources. So almonds are really good. Dried figs are fine. The more leafy green vegetables you eat, steamed, broccoli, all of the more you can increase that.
Shellfish?
Yep, shellfish, a lot of salmon as well, the bones in salmon, tin salmon. If you crush that up, mix that into that is a really easily absorbed form of calcium. So if you think about your calcium in small amounts in all the foods that you eat.
In Chinese medicine, if you have a heart problem, you eat heart. If you have a liver problem, you eat liver. If you have a bone problem, you should be eating bone. So that is something that's a non-Western philosophy, certainly in Asia. So the idea of eating salmon bone and other bone will give you balance if you are low in calcium other than eating a tablet. But it's really interesting to say, and the question I'm getting straight away is, okay, Sherry, my doctor has told me I have to have a calcium tablet.
Yes, so that brings us to the calcium tablets that are
They
advertised.
won't tell you that what they're not doing and why. My point to you, Sherry, is because the doctor...
Because the pharmaceutical companies go to doctors.
Not to do that. The doctor is going to tell clients to fix things.
Yes.
They're not going to go into lifestyle change.
No, they don't have time.
They don't have time.
They don't have
simple
time.
fix is you need to take this.
Yep. They don't have time.
A doctor is viewed higher than what we are.
Yep.
So, how would you consult that person?
So, what I would say to the person is, okay, what calcium supplement first are you taking? Do not take a calcium carbonate-based supplement. Really important, make note of that. Your body does not effectively absorb calcium carbonate. It's like chalk, Cliff. You're not meant to really eat it. And it's questionable whether it's good for your kidneys. Okay, kidney stones are made up of mineral salts. So are bile stones and other problems. So if you're going to take a calcium supplement, try and take calcium citrate or other forms of calcium, one that has vitamin D in it and other nutrients that you need to absorb your calcium. Adding some supplement, I don't think adding calcium supplements or other supplements are bad. I just think we shouldn't rely on them and just throw bucket loads of them into something and still eat badly, because it's not a solution. You're not fixing the problem. Okay, so it's not to say any product is bad, but do try and focus on a non-calcium carbonate supplement. Okay, and the doctor will suggest things, because the doctors have people come around and say, we've got this new product, this new medication. They do not think about why you got to that point. They just think about putting something there to fix the symptom. Their job is to treat the symptom. You came to them with a symptom. Their job is to treat that. It's our job in the fitness industry and the wellness industry is to give people, empower them to take charge of their own health before they have those problems. Educate them on what they need. Educate them that they do have the choice to make the right decisions and make a difference in their health. They don't need to rely on waiting until they are ill to then go to the doctor and get a medication that's going to suppress a symptom but cause other possible problems. It's not the doctor's fault. If that's the case, it's more people are not making the decision, they're not taking responsibility because they don't realize they can. They don't realize they can find out what they need to know, and there are people who can help them do that. So it's our job to fill that role in the fitness industry.
It also goes for cholesterol, blood pressure. It's the same thing. It's a band-aid issue.
Yep.
What I'm trying to get at, Sherry, is how do you get people to come around to hearing your thoughts? Because the doctor, they're the doctor. If they told me to do that differently,
yes, that's right.
Very, and you don't
dismiss. You don't. No.
With people about that. But it's we can only encourage.
Yes, you don't want to argue with the doctor. He's advised somebody to do something, that's fine. You have a look at what they're doing and explain why the doctor might have said that. If people understand why, it's easier for them to make an informed decision. But you can say, but these are the things you can do to complement and help reverse the problem. So that's fine to do, and that's the instance when people are taking high blood pressure medication. I've had many people I've seen for nutrition, and I've got them off their blood pressure medication. They've actually had low blood pressure. Go back to the doctor, I think you need to take your blood pressure medication, take you off your blood pressure medication. So it works. If they follow those things, it works, okay? It works every time, just about. And even if people have a tendency to have high blood pressure in their family, they can still get into a healthy range by changing their nutrition. Because that's the first thing people will say, my doctor said I have high blood pressure, it's family related. That doesn't mean you should have unhealthy blood pressure. That means you might be just a bit higher than the average person, but still in a healthy range, not in the risk of having strokes and putting your heart under stress. So yes, definitely that doesn't matter if they say that, say yes, but you can still get your blood pressure majority of the time into a healthy range if you make a few changes. Okay. So avoiding excess acid-producing foods and drinks. Now these points that I'm telling you, which I'm talking about, bone density and calcium, are relevant for blood pressure. If you're eating a more alkaline diet, you will reduce your chance of getting high blood pressure, because you're reducing the amount of trans fats that you're including, and you're reducing the amount of processed foods you're including automatically by eating a whole food diet. So you will improve your cholesterol, you'll improve your blood pressure function, as well as your bone density, all at the same time. So it is really important for people to be aware of these things, because it's become a more common problem than not for people to have at least one of those things in their life, and sometimes even at a very young age these days. Reducing processed food, deep fried foods, white flour products will also help balance out acidity. They all produce excess acidity. And reduce reflux issues, especially if you replace those foods with whole foods, fresh fruit, vegetables, raw nuts, seeds, whole grains, seeded breads, brown rice, which have much better nutritional density. How often do you hear people say, oh, I have reflux and indigestion and heartburn and all of those things? That's the beginning of having a problem. That's the first indications that there's excess acidity, and they need to make some changes. Okay, so you should highlight those things to them and
what
say,
would you say?
You would say, okay, having reflux, there's lots of different indigestion, reflux, heartburn, all of those things is an indication that your diet and your nutrition is not very balanced. You need to improve it to help you reduce the excess acid production that your body is experiencing, because you're going to probably have a problem with the amount of calcium that your body has, and also your amount of cholesterol that your body is producing.
So acid.
Yep. That's going to be a side effect. Yes, it will leach the calcium, and it's going to cause your body to do a whole collection of things. So definitely the overproduction of acidity is going to leach the calcium from your body, but also the acidity causes a whole lot of, it causes
acid's bad for the body.
It causes your body to have a low level of inflammation. That causes disease in your arteries.
Yes.
It causes deposits of cholesterol. It's meant to be a protective thing on your body. It's meant to protect your arteries. But in an acid environment and where you have inflammation in your arteries, your body lays cholesterol down like a band-aid. So is it the cholesterol that's the problem, or is it the inflammation? It's the inflammation. Okay. So if people are eating healthier, they don't have those problems. Then cholesterol doesn't cause a problem. All right, so making sure they're aware of those things, drawing that to their attention, whichever one, don't give them too much information, start with something that's relevant to them depending on which thing that they're experiencing. But highlight, they will feel better if they make those changes. Good quality, complete protein is important to include. Now the reason why I'm talking about protein now is because most proteins are acid producing. Okay, so it's really important, you need a balance. You don't want a completely alkaline diet. If your diet's completely alkaline, and some vegetarians do experience that, you won't have hydrochloric acid. Okay, you can't digest and break down your food properly if you don't have some acid, and it's meant to be in appropriate places, like in your stomach. Okay, so having a balanced intake and the right alkalinity, acidity balance. So good quality protein is the form of acid-producing food that you do want to include. Organic free-range chicken breast without the skin, lean grass-fed beef. Grass-fed beef, because it's higher in omega-3. Grain-fed beef has a different quality to it. And then all of your stock-feed beef, that's not really a good way for them to farm animals, but they also give them antibiotics to prevent illness. So they have toxic residues in there. You're exposed to more of that. Okay, there's a lot of reasoning behind avoiding those things other than just health as well, on the biggest scale of things.
What's pea protein? I'm not familiar. Pea protein, that's okay. What's pea
protein? Is your lentils. It's an isolated protein from pea protein.
Right.
And they have produced some that is complete protein now. So you can buy pea protein powder at the health shop.
There you go.
And it has ground up superfoods in it too, a lot of them. So you can make a smoothie with it.
I like smoothies.
Yeah. Now, how do I go back?
Do you want to go back?
I don't think
You can probably move on. We've only got 5 minutes left.
Okay. Most health concerns can be positively addressed by improving clients' nutritional intake. Some of these conditions include high cholesterol. There are many factors to consider. Here's an interesting fact as well. If somebody's eating lots of carbohydrates and no cholesterol, they can still get high cholesterol. Because the more your blood sugar is up and the more insulin your body produces, the more your liver has to process that sugar and put it away, the more cholesterol your body is going to have a tendency to produce, especially if you have a genetic tendency for high cholesterol. So that's predisposing a person even with a low-fat, no-fat diet. They can still have problems with inflammation and cholesterol. So it's not so much about eggs. People say, oh, eggs bad. No. They're not. You can eat quite a few eggs without there being any effect on your cholesterol levels. Okay, so it's not dietary cholesterol, it's where the nutrients that you're getting or not getting and causing too much change. Insulin has an effect on pretty much your whole body and all of those different factors that include inflammation in the body. So reflux, arthritis, heart disease, all of those things are associated with that common strain. Soluble fibre helps absorb cholesterol from your bowel, which will be eliminated. A lack of soluble fibre will allow the excess cholesterol, which the body is trying to eliminate, to be reabsorbed, thereby keeping cholesterol levels too high.
Can I just ask a question?
Yeah.
Do you guys know how to explain insulin to your clients in a way that they will understand? What would you guys say?
I say it's quite simply the insulin is your body's reaction to sugar. Your body goes, okay, here's the sugar. We don't want too much of that, so your body reacts to the insulin. But the problem is
until he injects it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it just increases. So the higher your sugar goes, more insulin is released. The more your body adapts to having to release more insulin.
Yep.
So your sugar level starts to drop then.
So it's important to understand what insulin is. So you must say it's a hormone, a chemical messenger. So it affects all of the hormones in the body. They drive your body. So they're the instructions. Okay, so if they're out of balance, not only does insulin get affected, but the whole picture. Okay, so your insulin, yes, it controls your sugar. It either drops it down when there's too much sugar, or your body produces less insulin so your body can keep your blood sugar up. And you have glucagon and insulin, they work together. So if your chemical messengers become imbalanced, then you have a problem with your blood sugar.
How would you explain the pathway in the most simplest form to diabetes type 2?
Okay, so if you, for instance, you ate breakfast and that was any high sugar content food that has no fat in it, your blood sugar is going to raise as your body digests that sugar. What happens when your blood sugar gets to a certain point, your body's going to release insulin. Insulin is then going to drop your blood sugar back down. What happens when your body releases insulin is it pushes the sugar from your cells, from your blood into your cells. Your cells then have to store that away, okay? But for that to happen, your liver has to process that. All right? So what happens when you constantly have a huge demand on your pancreas to produce insulin, and your liver is constantly trying to regulate and organize all of that excess sugar you're eating and store away fat and make excess cholesterol to put all of that excess away somewhere, you're constantly pushing your insulin button, okay? And if you think about the more you press that, think about wear and tear, it's going to cause a problem. Whereas if you have a low GI food and you slowly increase your blood sugar without stimulating your insulin a lot, and then your blood sugar slowly drops, and then you eat your next meal, and you've got protein in there, your insulin spikes are minimal. And they've done a lot of research to show that the less your insulin spikes, the longer your longevity, because of those reasons. So the more someone's sugar, body is loaded with sugar in one individual load. That's why a huge sugar hit is so bad. Yeah, but not a small amount. Yeah.
After training, like a training response,
yep.
you want to build some muscle, you need a
yep.
initial response
yes.
to deliver that protein.
So what the insulin's going to do, it's going to push the sugar into the muscles, yes.
Yeah. So if we talk muscle building about people trying to recover and
yes.
kickstart the recovery process,
yep.
like having protein so initially drives the proteins to the muscle.
Yep. So it's important to remember too much is not good either.
Correct.
So the right amount. So they want a moderate amount with protein combined for refueling. Yeah? So as soon as too much insulin won't help you build muscle either.
Is there a...
Because it can have a negative impact on your hormones, because your growth hormone and everything works together with that. So, yeah, the more steady that regulation is, the better response you're going to have.
Is this a suggestion how much carbohydrates you need to have to train?
No, well, that depends on the person, how many kilograms they are, the intensity of the training. Yep, that's right. So that definitely depends on what they're doing. That's very specific. Yeah.
Body type.
Yeah. Depending, yeah, definitely on the person, their metabolism,
And also
what they're aiming for. What's that?
Obviously, the goals too.
Yes, it also depends on what they've been doing over the last 3 days, if they're building up to something, how much glycogen they have stored, all of those things.
You're certainly going to have a lot
Yes.
smaller insulin response if they're eating sugar all the time. So basically that whole concept of having
Yes.
an insulin response
The more
if they're eating
you-
sugar all day is going to be null and void for somebody that's trying to put size on.
The more you overload your insulin, the less it works. Okay, so that's where sometimes people do fasting. Fasting actually makes your insulin start working properly again. So people who have sugar type 2 and sugar diabetes that's not insulin dependent, they are, when they stop increasing the amount of insulin that's released, their insulin, and they start training. Muscle weight training is a really important way to improve that, and cardiovascular exercise too. It starts making your insulin work properly again. So you can often reverse that process to the point where that person isn't sugar diabetic anymore, type 2 that is, not when your pancreas stops producing insulin. That's a different thing. Yeah, but if somebody is insulin, what we call insulin resistant, which is a precursor, they can definitely get their insulin to work again properly by weight training and restricting the carbohydrates and how fast the sugar gets in the blood. So definitely using protein, really important for them with that. So not only is it important to cut out trans fats and things from your diet, but also sugar and also increased soluble fiber. That's where your fruit and vegetables takes a role. Soluble fiber binds with cholesterol and it then would pass out of your body instead of being reabsorbed. Your intestine, your liver takes the cholesterol out and it then excretes it in your bile salts, okay, in your bile duct, which is with your digestive acids and your minerals and your bile, it helps you break down and absorb nutrients. It goes into your intestine. What happens? What does your intestine do? The job of your intestine is to reabsorb and to absorb nutrients. So you reabsorb essentially that cholesterol unless your body's got the right amount of fiber to bind some of it so that you excrete the toxins. Otherwise you keep on absorbing the same things back in your body and it can't get rid of it. Especially if you add dehydration to that and not drinking enough water, you're not eating very well. Yeah, you end up with a chemical soup that your body's constantly exposed to. So it's really worth considering when it comes to cancer prevention and lifestyle diseases. They are preventable. High blood pressure. I've spoken about some of those things already. So alkalinity, balanced alkaline producing diet will alleviate high blood pressure. When somebody has high blood pressure, there are a few important pointers. Okay, number one, they need to manage their stress and sleep enough. If they're sleeping for less than 6 or 7 hours a night, it's not going to help their blood pressure. Elevates your cortisol. Elevated cortisol affects blood pressure. Got to change and regulate the stress. Okay. Number two, they're often not drinking enough. They're dehydrated and they're relying on caffeine to boost their energy because their adrenals have been overworked long term. Okay. So cut caffeine. Smoking. Big reason, big cause. Big problem. They need to cut back on or quit smoking, okay, which suppresses your body's ability to use and cancels out vitamin C. Vitamin C and all your antioxidants are deleted by smoke and from chemicals that we are exposed to in our everyday life. So increasing your vitamin C intake and garlic. You can take garlic as well, which helps. It's to do with the flexibility of your blood vessels, okay, when they become rigid. Then your mechanism that helps your body regulate your blood pressure starts to go wrong.
So
weight training helps bring that back, but increasing your vegetable content increases your vitamin C intake, and then as well as reducing the stresses, so caffeine and toxins and stress.
And adding garlic.
Yes,
Adding
yeah.
garlic.
Bear paw garlic supplements and vitamin C, taking them, they can help a lot. And also getting the acid-alkaline balance right. Really important. That rings true through a healthy diet is an alkaline-producing diet. Many people can reduce their medication and go off their medication, but stress needs to be considered.
Consider that those with higher blood pressure will be more affected by doing overhead exercises. So if you do have people that have high blood pressure, guys, it's very important to understand that increases in blood millimoles, certainly in diastolic, the blood pressure will increase by 13 to 15 millimoles higher, for example, in a pullover compared to, say, a leg extension, leg curl, deadlift. Okay, so keep that in mind. Upper body, you need to keep if people are giddy or not feeling right or got headaches in that day and you're training your upper body, they're known to have high blood pressure, then you want to steer clear of doing too intense upper body exercises like a pullover or a chest press.
When somebody starts training with you as a new client, make sure you do check their blood pressure. Some people do not appreciate, they might have really high blood pressure, they dismiss it and say, no, it's fine, it's controlled. It's definitely not. They are at very high risk health-wise, and they can do something about it to fix it. And it's your job to show them and let them understand that. And so for them, nutrition is the first step, really important, and then to start getting them training appropriately. But number one for them is nutrition and changing what they do. Okay? It's really important for them to know that, because some people do not recognize that. They ignore it, and they can have a stroke or a heart attack. You wouldn't want somebody to do that, so you would rather prevent that. Okay, that's talking about acid-producing foods. We've spoken about that. Alcohol, coffee, sugar, most processed grains are acid-forming. High-protein foods such as meat, fish, and eggs are, but include them, aiming for balanced nutrition. Acid-forming foods include nearly all vegetables, alkaline-forming foods, include nearly all vegetables and fruits, many nuts and seeds, and some spices. For millennia, since our Stone Age ancestors, they ate hundreds of different types of natural whole foods. They did not eat processed foods. Seeds, nuts, vegetables, fruits, roots were supplemented with game, animals, meat, and fish, providing what is likely to have been a better pH-balanced diet. Our organs and body systems involved, have adapted over time, but that is what we predominantly are meant to eat, more of those things. That's what our body has adapted to the most. Okay, it's as if nature said you can eat acid-forming meat, beans, and other high-protein foods, but you must balance these with an abundance of alkaline-forming vegetables, fruits, nuts, and seeds, and some spices. For thousands of years, that's what we did.
So that's a point that many people be familiar with, which is, I eat my veg, which means I get to have ice cream.
Yes.
So in a way, no, it makes no difference for fat loss. It doesn't mean the case, but for health,
yes,
that's actually saying, well, if you're going to have a big barbecue and that on a Saturday afternoon, then make sure you've got good veggies, fruits, salads, and try to balance out those acid and alkaline foods.
Because that's what it's about. It is about balance. It's not about excluding and becoming vegan and eating raw food only. It's about finding that balance and what suits that person. We've strayed from acid-alkaline balanced diet that our ancestors achieved. We favour meat, sugar, grains, low-fat, mineral processed. When they started processing food, people started switching to that. And if you look back and you read up, it didn't happen that fast. People were not buying processed food initially. They didn't believe it. They didn't think it was good. Now we've gone the other way. We've used the convenience and found that to the point when people only rely on some of those foods, which is a shame. And that's starting to change. People are starting to realise. Okay. Yes, over-acidity will cause what you call chronic low-grade metabolic acidosis, which is low-grade inflammation in your body. It causes arthritis and all the problems that people associate with, I'm getting older, I'm past this age. When people come into the gym, I'm this age, blah, blah, blah. Say, you shouldn't be having any problems It's nothing to do with age, it's what you've been doing for the last 40, 50, whatever many years, okay? If you give your body the right things, it will function well. You're meant to be able to live to 130. They'll laugh at you, but it's true. So if you look after your body and give it what it needs, it will look after you, and you'll be able to do what you want to do, and without damaging your health. The obvious solution to this problem is to do what countless nutritionists and doctors always tell us: eat more vegetables and fruit and cut back on processed foods and meats and sweets.
I'd love to meet that doctor that says that.
Yes, so doctors don't advise that first. They might tell you to eat more vegetables, but yes, not much more than that. They don't really specialise or learn very much about nutrition at all, okay?
My father has high blood pressure and the doctor told him not to do exercise. Because
that's right, he was saying your blood pressure's so high that if you raise it any more, it's dangerous, or you might have a stroke.
Didn't tell him why or
No.
how to reduce it and then to incorporate it, but just no.
Don't
Because the
exercise.
doctor's point is, if he told him to do exercise and he didn't hurt himself, he's to blame.
Which
The
will
doctors
enable.
have to be very careful. And
Yes.
people don't look into it. So my
No.
dad's the sort of guy that he's not going to go look into it. What's a Google? He wouldn't have a clue.
Yep.
And there's a lot of people out there that's possible.
But it also means they don't have to change anything.
Of course, it's easy.
It's hard.
It's easy.
It's hard to change when you've always done whatever's
Stay like
got
this,
you
take a
where you
tablet and
are.
that'll be enough.
So yeah, it's enabling the present attitude to continue. So yeah.
And there's a lot of people out there that will agree with that. Certainly
That's right.
those from the Truman generation and baby boomers and above, because they've always, their generation is about being told.
That's right.
That's their generation.
about listening.
Not this generation here, which is to ask why. Theirs is to be told.
Yep. So, right, we've spoken about that. Whole foods, caffeine, symptoms that improve with alkaline balanced diet. Weight gain, okay, people will lose weight when they eat a more alkaline producing diet. High acid producing diet is often high calorie and low in micronutrients as well. It's not only macro. People tend to think, especially when it comes to weight loss, protein, fat, carbs. It's also micronutrients, okay? Those are what help support the whole picture. That's why you want all your different coloured fruit and vegetables, antioxidants. They assist you. If you're not deprived of micronutrients, you're less likely to crave things, and you're having your essential fats as well, especially important. Non-specific aches and pains, especially in the bones and joints, low-level inflammation in the body is a symptom of that. Acid reflux or heartburn, poor digestion, irritable bowel, intestinal cramping, fatigue, feeling of being run down, anxiety, allergy, muscle weakness and bone density, kidney stones, gallstones from high acidic diet. And if you add bad calcium supplements to that, research is showing that can aggravate the problem. High blood pressure, or some of the reading I've been doing. High blood pressure and cholesterol, something that does improve. Seen it over and over again. Very few people will not respond to that, and it's normally because they haven't reduced their stress or they're still having caffeine or other things. Skin problems, gum problems, no surprise. Gum, who's read that gum disease is associated with heart disease?
Cancer.
That's right. Is it the gum disease that's causing the heart disease and the cancer? No. It's a common denominator. All right? You get health problems. You have gum problems when you don't have vitamin C and the nutrients you need. You get heart disease when you don't have the vitamins and the nutrients your body needs for it to function properly. So gum disease is a sign that you're not healthy and you're likely to have those other problems. There might be bacteria. They're saying that the bacteria in your teeth and in dentistry can be extremely poisonous and that it poisons your system. But the chances are that survives there when your immune system's not working properly. So does cancer, so does heart disease. It's able to increase and get worse when you're not eating well. So it's more about, are you healthy or not whether one's causing the other. They're associated together, yes, because you're not healthy.
Cells are affected by cancer and by disease. Your cells have been proven to develop, and they have to redevelop only 60 times. So when people say your number is up, and people number is up, it's because those cells have now been broken down, reorganised, grown again, redeveloped 60 times, and then they die. And when they start to die, that's cancer. So things like skin disease, eczema, ulcers, stomach ulcers are shocking, bleeding gums, bruises and knocks. Every time your body has that disease, any sort of infection is absolutely the worst for the body because it's breaking down cells and it continues to break down cells.
Inflammation.
Throat infections. If you get bronchitis all the time, that is a massive worry for you because these cells get broken down, and sooner or later, obviously some people don't get bronchitis, but they get these other problems. They get infection in throat, so somewhere different.
That's right.
That's their body's way of not being able to cope, and that's how they handle stress. Once they have been broken down and those cells have been damaged 60 times, they die. Once they die, that's when cancer comes in and attacks your body. So it is literally a point of your number up. I've got a really, really good book on that. It's a simple read. If anyone would like to know about it, it's called Genes, and the scientist that wrote that just wrote to the point what happens and how is cancer caused and how you can live longer. It's really, really 60 pages. It's just to the point. I'll let you know that if you like.
Yep, and well, any health problem should be a red flag to you that there's something going on. Nothing should be reoccurring and consistent. Your immune system should be able to balance it out and correct. If you're not only what you're doing to your body, if you're not providing it with the materials it needs to rectify the problem, you're going to have a problem. If you're adding chemicals and problems that disrupt, plastics, petrochemicals, we put products on our body. We're exposed to chemicals we use for cleaning. We're exposed to chemicals, vehicles. Every day in our environment, even though electromagnetic, you don't want that where you sleep. All of those things are things that are having a negative impact on your body. So the nutrients you put into your body really do need to be good for your body to have some